At a private runway, a black teenage janitor quietly scrubs oil from the wheels of a billionaire woman's jet. But when he catches her trusted housemen sabotaging the engine, he must choose: speak up and risk being branded a liar, or stay silent and watch lives crash. What he decides won't just change the flight. It'll change everything he thought possible for himself. Before we dive in this story, let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear your thoughts. The sun hadn't risen yet, but the sky above Fort Lauderdale was already softening into a grayish blue, streaked with the first hints of dawn. The tarmac shimmered under the yellow floodlights, slick from last night's coastal rain. Aircraft hangars loomed like sleeping giants in the distance, their steel ribs groaning quietly with the morning breeze. The hum of a cleaning truck rolled across the lot, echoing off the aluminum walls. Among the scattered crews prepping for the day, a lone boy, small, wiry, maybe no more than 14, moved with silent determination between the wheels of a Gulfstream G650 jet. His uniform and oversized orange vest with a broken zipper hung awkwardly over his frame, brown skin dusted with engine soot. Curls poking out from under his cap, his name patch read, Malik. He didn't need the uniform to prove he belonged here. He had earned his space with a mop and a wrench, and the resolve of someone twice his age. Malik Carter knew how invisible he looked in a place like this. He bent down, picking up a loose soda can someone had kicked under the landing gear. His gloved fingers brushed against cold metal, and he took a breath. Not from effort, but habit. "Don't leave things behind," his mother always said. Not trash, not guilt, not chances to be proud. He stood back up and scanned the apron. There were no other cleaners this early. The elite aircraft zone was mostly silent, except for the occasional murmur from a pilot walking to check his manifest. Nobody paid attention to Malik, not really. And that was fine with him. Being overlooked was safer. He moved toward the maintenance ladder, wiping down the wheel housing. His fingers, though roughened from labor, moved with an unexpected grace, as if they admired the machinery even while cleaning it. His eyes, deep and steady, often wandered over the bolts and panels like they were pages from a favorite book. He didn't just clean jets, he studied them. This wasn't just a job. It was a front-row seat to his dream. His voice was barely a whisper as he spoke to himself. Rolls-Royce BR-725 engines. She's got a top speed of 685 miles an hour and a range of 7,000 miles. There was a glimmer of reverence in his tone, like a kid reciting a prayer. But as the dawn broke further, Malik's quiet rhythm was interrupted. From the corner of his eye he noticed movement near the fuselage. A man, tall in a tailored gray suit, with neatly parted silver hair, was crouched low by the engine intake. The man wasn't part of the usual maintenance crew. Malik recognized him. Everyone did. Mr. Granger, the longtime personal valet of Eleanor Whitmore, the billionaire philanthropist and business magnate known for owning the exact jet Malik was working around. Granger shouldn't be there, and certainly not alone. Malik froze, mop half raised. The man had something in his hand, small, metallic, like a tool or device. He seemed to be twisting something just under the nacelle. It wasn't cleaning, it wasn't inspection, it looked wrong. The valet glanced around quickly before standing up and slipping the object into his blazer. His gait was calm, almost rehearsed as he walked away, never once looking toward Malik. For a few seconds, Malik didn't move. His chest tightened, heart tapping against his ribs like it wanted out. He swallowed. His grip on the mop handle tightened. What was that?" he muttered under his breath, voice shaky. "Did I just see? No." His mind spun. He wanted to believe he had imagined it. Maybe the man had clearance, maybe it was some kind of routine. But deep inside, something clawed at his gut. The way Granger looked around, the way he moved. It felt intentional. But who would listen to him? A 14-year-old janitor who barely had permission to be near the aircraft, let alone question someone like Mr. Granger. Malik turned his eyes to the plane. She stood majestic and beautiful, her white exterior kissed by the first golden rays of sunlight. In a few hours, she'd be airborne, with Eleanor Whitmore inside. With her trust placed in the very people around her. Malik's breath hitched. You could stay silent. No one saw what he saw. But his mother's voice came to him again, clearer this time, like it floated in with the wind. Doing the right thing is like standing in a storm. You don't do it because it's safe, you do it because it's right. He looked down at his trembling hands, then back at the sky that was slowly shifting from gray to gold. And in that moment, Malik knew. The hardest part wasn't what he saw. It was what he was going to do next. But even as the sun lit up the tarmac, that the world around him awoke with the sounds of jet engines, coffee carts, and murmured conversations in headsets, Malik Carter stood frozen near the underbelly of the jet, his mind spiraling with doubt. He walked toward the side lot where the other janitors gathered for their morning break, but everything felt distant, like he was moving through fog. In the cramped break room, tucked behind a fuel dispatch terminal, a microwave beeped as someone reheated yesterday's noodles. The sharp scent of cleaning fluid lingered in the air, mixing with the bitterness of burnt coffee. Malik sat at the far end, silent, eyes locked on his half-eaten sandwich, hands clasped tightly in his lap. A burly man named Donnie, mid-40s, with a shaved head and booming laugh, plopped beside him, cracking open a bottle of Gatorade. "You look like you seen a ghost, kid," Donnie said, his voice a half-joke, half-observation. Malik hesitated, then spoke, barely audible. "I saw Mr. Granger near the engine this morning. He was doing something weird." His voice cracked, unsure. He wasn't even sure if he wanted to be heard. Donnie let out a dry chuckle, wiping sweat from his neck. "You mean the lady's butler? What, was he dusting the plane with a diamond rag?" A couple of the others laughed, but Malik didn't. He had something in his hand. It looked like, I don't know, a tool. He was twisting something. And then he just walked off. Malik continued, his voice now sharper, his eyes meeting Donnie's. The laughter faded. A woman named Teresa looked over, lips pursed. "You accusing him of tampering with the plane? That's a bold claim, Malik." Malik felt the weight of the room tilt against him. "I'm not saying I know for sure, but it didn't feel right. What if something's wrong and nobody says anything?" Donnie leaned back, sighing. "Kid, look. You speak up without proof. You're the one who gets burned. We clean floors. We don't make accusations, especially not about people who wear $1,000 suits." Teresa nodded, folding her arms. "If you're wrong, you could lose this job. You think anyone up there is going to believe a boy from the janitor crew over her personal valet?" Those words pierced deeper than they intended. Malik's chest tightened. The room blurred around the edges. He looked down, his fingers gripping the sides of his chair. No one had said it, but he heard the unspoken part loud and clear. He was young, poor, and black. His word wouldn't carry far, especially against someone like Granger, who had the trust and proximity of a billionaire. "I just don't want something bad to happen," Malik muttered, more to himself than anyone else. Donnie leaned forward, voice low now. "And I don't want to read about a boy who stuck his nose where it didn't belong. You got a good thing here. Don't mess it up." He gave Malik a firm pat on the back, then stood and left. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Malik sat there long after the others had gone, replaying the morning over and over in his head. Maybe he had imagined it. Maybe Granger really was checking something routine. But the way he looked around before walking off, that image kept clawing back. He stepped outside again, this time into a brighter world. The Florida heat now rising off the concrete, the private jet still gleaming under the sun like nothing had happened. No one suspected a thing. No alarms, no delays. Everything was normal. And yet, the normalcy felt like a mask. He looked up and saw the catering truck pulling in. Soon passengers would be arriving. The Whitmore Gulf Stream would be in the air within the hour. As he watched the jet's silhouette stretch across the runway, Malik whispered to himself, "If something goes wrong, and I stay quiet, I'll never forgive myself." The weight of silence had never felt heavier. The moment came faster than Malik expected. Less than an hour after his conversation in the break room, he spotted the sleek black SUV pulling up to the edge of the private runway. Security detail moved like shadows, polished and precise, opening the rear door as a pair of heels stepped out onto the tarmac. Eleanor Whitmore, poised, commanding, dressed in a white linen suit that flowed in the morning breeze, smiled softly as she nodded to her team. She looked untouched by age, wealth sculpted into every gesture. A woman so distant from Malik's world, she might as well have stepped out of a magazine cover. And yet, she was about to step into danger. Malik's heartbeat thundered in his ears as he stood behind the gate fence, his cleaning badge dangling from a lanyard forgotten. His breaths came faster, panic tightening in his chest. No one had listened. The plane hadn't been checked, and she was walking toward it, laughing lightly with Granger, who trailed just behind her, holding her designer bag like nothing was wrong. That was it. That was the last straw. Something in Malik snapped. He dropped the mop bucket where it stood and bolted. His feet pounded the concrete, racing across the tarmac before he could even process the consequences. He didn't yell at first. His lungs caught in fear. But as the gap between him and the staircase narrowed, he shouted, voice cracking with urgency, "Ma'am, please, stop! Don't get on that plane!" The bodyguards reacted instantly. One reached for his holster, another moved to block his path. "Stop right there," someone barked through a radio, but Malik didn't stop. "Please, just listen. It's not safe," he cried, voice hoarse, desperation blooming in every word. Eleanor paused mid-step, one foot on the bottom stair, her head turning slowly, her brow furrowed not in fear but in confusion. She raised a hand gently, signaling the guards to wait. "Let him speak," she said calmly, her voice like cooled steel. Malik skidded to a halt just feet away, chest heaving, his eyes wide and pleading locked onto hers. "I know I'm just a cleaner," he gasped, "but this morning I saw Mr. Granger near the engine. He had something in his hand. He was twisting something under the intake. It didn't look right. I swear." The air around them grew still. Granger stepped forward, lips tight in a disbelieving frown. "With all due respect, ma'am, he's mistaken. I dropped a pen this morning while walking around. The boy probably saw me pick it up. This is a misunderstanding. He's just confused." Malik snapped his head toward him, eyes blazing. "You didn't drop anything. I saw you looking around before you touched the panel. I saw the tool. You weren't supposed to be there." Eleanor's eyes flicked between the two of them, unreadable. Granger's smile remained, though the edges had stiffened. "He's a child, from the cleaning crew. You really think I'd sabotage your aircraft?" "No, I don't think you'd be that stupid," Eleanor said slowly, narrowing her gaze. "But I also don't think this boy would risk his job, his reputation, and possibly his safety just to lie to me." She turned to her head of security. "Call an independent inspection team now. I want a full diagnostic on that jet before I set one foot on it." Granger's face twitched. Just barely. But it was enough. Malik saw it. A flicker of panic. The next 30 minutes passed in tense silence. The inspection team arrived with equipment and urgency, crawling beneath the aircraft while guards stood by. Malik sat on the low edge of a cargo crate, fingers trembling, watching, waiting. A single drop of sweat trailed down the back of his neck. He didn't know what was worse, being wrong or being right. Then came the verdict. One of the lead engineers, gray-hailed, serious, walked up to Eleanor with a clipboard in hand and a grim expression. "We found signs of deliberate tampering inside the engine nacelle. The torque on several bolts was loosened in a very specific way. If this aircraft had taken off, you could have had a full-blown engine failure within minutes." Gasps rippled through the staff. Eleanor's expression hardened, lips pressed into a tight line. She slowly turned toward Granger, who stood perfectly still, his hands folded as if hoping to disappear. "Detain him," she said to her guards. voice low and sharp, "and call my legal team." Two men stepped forward. Granger tried to protest, "Ma'am, you don't understand," but the words were swallowed by the click of cuffs and the silence of everyone around him. Eleanor stepped toward Malik. Her tone shifted, softer but firm. "You did something today most grown men wouldn't dare. You spoke up. You may have just saved my life." Malik could barely speak. His throat was dry, his eyes wide with disbelief and fear that hadn't yet faded. He nodded slowly, almost in shock. I couldn't let it happen." As her security escorted Granger away and the inspection team continued their work, Eleanor looked back at the jet gloaming but betrayed, and then at Malik, covered in grease and sweat, a boy from nowhere who chose the truth over fear. And yet, the danger had passed, the mystery revealed, but the aircraft was still grounded. Something else now loomed over the team. An urgent question no one could yet answer. How do they fix the damage before the next takeoff? As Granger was escorted into a waiting black SUV, his head low, wrists bound in stainless steel, a strange hush settled over the tarmac. Eleanor Whitmore stood with her arms crossed, her gaze lingering on the aircraft as if seeing it for the first time not as a symbol of power, but of vulnerability. The inspection team huddled around their notes, their tones clipped and grim. Despite removing the immediate threat, the engine was still compromised. The jet wasn't going anywhere, not today. The bolts were twisted just enough to destabilize the rotation module, one technician explained, shaking his head. "It's a precision fix. We could call in the Fort Worth crew. They specialize in this tier of damage. But they won't be here for another 12 hours, maybe more." Eleanor pinched the bridge of her nose. "I have a summit in D.C. this evening. Canceling means pulling funding from 3 major relief programs. I can't afford that delay." There was silence. Helplessness thickened the air. And then, softly, from behind the row of suited professionals, a voice broke through. "I can try," Malik said. It wasn't loud, but it was clear. Every head turned. He stood with his back straight, his eyes locked onto the jet, not defiant but certain. The kind of certainty that doesn't come from arrogance, but from hours spent watching, learning, dreaming when no one noticed. His uniform still bore the smudges of grease and ground oil, but in that moment, he stood taller than anyone else on that tarmac. Eleanor raised an eyebrow. "You want to repair a $65 million 0-cents aircraft?" Her voice wasn't mocking, just surprised. Malik didn't flinch. "I've studied that model since I was 10. The G650's engine configuration, pressure balance, hydraulic core, I know it. I know what that damage was meant to do. And I know how to fix it. I think I can." The lead technician chuckled nervously. "Kid, we appreciate your help, but this isn't a Lego set. You strip a bolt the wrong way, you'll make it worse." "I won't," Malik replied. His voice was calm now, measured. "I just need tools, and 20 minutes." The team hesitated, looking to Eleanor, waiting for her to dismiss the idea, but she didn't. She studied Malik's face, the sincerity, the quiet fire behind his eyes. There was no performance there, no ego, just a boy who saw a problem and couldn't walk away from it. "You stopped me from boarding a death trap," she said slowly. "The least I can do is let you try." The team cleared space in the bay, skeptical but curious. Malik knelt beside the open panel, hands steady as he took the torque wrench. His fingers moved instinctively, loosening protective plates, sliding into tight crevices of metal and carbon fiber with practiced precision. He worked in silence, eyes narrowed in focus, brow furrowed in concentration. People gathered around him without realizing it. Technicians, security, even catering staff paused to watch. A boy barely out of middle school, commanding the belly of a machine built for titans. Every twist of the tool, every check of the gauge was like watching muscle memory unfold from someone born into it. 15 minutes in, he paused. "Replace this bolt," he said, pointing. "It's been bent from the torque. If we leave it, the balance will be off at high altitude." One of the engineers blinked, then wordlessly handed him the part. The murmurs began then, quiet, astonished. One whispered, "How the hell does he know that?" Malik didn't hear them. He was somewhere else. Somewhere inside the engine, inside the systems he had memorized from second-hand manuals and blurry YouTube videos. This wasn't about proving himself. This was about doing the right thing, all the way. Finally, he stepped back. "Try it." The crew chief activated the engine with caution. A soft, mechanical whine filled the bay, swelling into the rhythmic purr of a turbine finding its breath. Then, the unmistakable hum of stability. Smooth, balanced, perfect. "Everything reads green," the technician said, staring at his tablet in disbelief. "It's perfect, not patched, not passable, perfect." No one said anything at first. Then the applause came. Spontaneous, genuine, echoing through the hangar. One of the mechanics even let out a loud whoop. Eleanor walked forward, her heels clicking softly against the concrete. She looked at Malik, not like a billionaire looks at a janitor's son, but like a human being looks at another who just reminded her of what was possible. "You just saved my life, again," she said. "And now you've saved my jet." Malik's shoulders sagged slightly, the adrenaline finally leaving his body. He looked up at her, voice quiet. "I just wanted to help." She nodded slowly. "And I want to make sure the world doesn't waste someone like you." Her voice held something different now, intention, purpose. The applause eventually faded, but the moment lingered like the warmth of sunlight through glass. Eleanor Whitmore didn't speak right away. She simply looked at Malik, her gaze anchored, not in pity or astonishment, but in conviction, like she'd just witnessed something rare, something real. Then she turned to her assistant and spoke with quiet firmness. "Get the Whitmore Foundation on the line. I want the head of our scholarship division briefed within the hour. And call admissions at Halverson Institute of Aeronautics. I want them to meet some." Malik blinked, confused. "Wait, what are you doing?" Eleanor smiled, the kind that softens steel without dulling its edge. "I'm doing what should have been done a long time ago." She reached into her blazer and pulled out a small ivory card embossed with gold letters. "This is my direct line. You'll need it when the admissions board calls to schedule your first interview. I'm offering you a full scholarship, Malik. Housing, books, travel, the works. You're not meant to clean jets. You're meant to build them." Malik stared at the card in his hands like it was made of lightning. His throat tightened, his fingers trembled, and for a long second he couldn't speak. "But I'm just a kid. I don't even have a computer at home. I don't know if I—" His voice cracked, eyes glistening despite himself. "You don't need to know everything yet," she said gently. "You just need a chance, and someone willing to bet on you. Consider this your runway." His lips parted, but the words never came. He simply nodded, biting down the sob that threatened to escape. That day, he didn't just save a life. He reclaimed his own. 12 months passed. The camera opens on a campus bathed in golden morning light, sleek white buildings framed by trees in bloom. At the edge of a high-tech hangar, a group of students in blue overalls and safety goggles gather around a training jet. Among them is Malik, now 15, a little taller, his curls tied back, his eyes focused and confident. He's explaining fluid mechanics to 2 classmates, gesturing to the intake valves with the same calm certainty he once used to fix a billionaire's plane. His name tag reads, Malik Carter, Technical Fellow. Across the hangar, a car pulls up. Eleanor Whitmore steps out, dressed in navy this time, a subtle smile playing on her lips. She walks through the bay until Malik turns and sees her. For a moment they simply smile at each other. No words, no grandeur, just a quiet recognition between 2 people whose lives intersected at the exact moment it mattered most. She extends a hand. Malik shakes it, then he pulls her into a hug. The final frame holds on them, surrounded by engines and light. Voiceover fades in. Sometimes doing the right thing costs more than we can afford, but once in a while, it buys you a future. Not everyone gets the chance to be seen, but for those who speak up when it matters, sometimes the sky answers back. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.